Hello, team. Good day. So, this session we will try to understand the microservice architecture. So, inside the microservices, we can try to communicate to a database via the entity framework. So, first, like we will make this video into a two session. First session, we will create a sample, a structure, and a basic APIs. And the second videos, we will create the like how we can communicate the API gateway to the work child services. So let's start. Make a Visual Studio project here. Create new project. So before going in details, we'll create some blank solution here. Click on the blank solutions and you can give the some basic names. Click on the blank solution. I will create the project called as a task flow. My project name is called as a task flow. So that's why like I have created the name called as a blank solution name called as a task flow. Inside the task flow, you can make the service architecture layers. You can add few folders. The first folder you can add new solution folder. Here you can make as a API gateway. The project name should be a API gateway. The second folder you can mark as a infrastructures, which is commonly we are using to all services. Mark as infrastructure. Then you can create another folder called as services, where we are capturing the all services inside this microservices. Okay. Then we have the another folder required to core coverage, the test. Okay. So this is the test. Okay. Now this API gateway and the infrastructures, you can keep just create a sample project, but the actual implementation of these two projects we can say later. Okay, so how we can add the project inside the API gateway? Add the gateway should be a new project, should be a API project. It should be a communicate to the client application. So client application is communicate to API gateway. API gateway is communicate to our child microservice. Okay, so this is the architecture we are trying to create here. We have the less time, but we will try to create the application here. Task flow. You can give the project name called as a task flow. Taskflow dot API gateway. So this is the main project, but this project you need to require where inside the API gateway folder. Okay, the folder will be coming as a API gateway, and this API gateway has the project name should be called as a taskflow dot API gateway. Click on the next. Unselect the HTTPS because we are trying to create the demo sessions and we are not installing the certificate because we will run the locally. So this is the first project we are adding as a taskflow.api gateway where we have added the API gateway folder. So same things like in infrastructure, we are managing the some resources, logging mechanism, which is the resources required to all services. We can keep this API gateway and the infrastructures, how it works. We can see into a second video. Now we can focus into the main project that is called as a the inside the task flow. We will create one service called as a any service like admin service. Let's say we can make as a one folder here, add new solution folder. Like first service should be a admin service, or you can mark as a client admin. Okay, so this is the first service, and the second service you can mark as a new folder end user, where we can capture the end user related services. So This is the two microservices we are trying to create here. The same things inside the test project also we need to create the same folder structure. That is the so now we can create the first project here and new project. First is ASP.NET Core. The project name should be a task flow dot. The service name called as a client admin dot the API. So inside the task flow, we have the folder called as a services. Inside the services, we have the client admin. So this is the folder structure we are making. You can create this one and select the HTTPS. Use controller is the basic things. Perfect. Okay. So this is the one project we are adding into inside the client admin. So now we are following the clean architectures. So each service we need to create some libraries to run the loose couple code. Okay. So same thing. We need to create another project here. The new project as a class library. I will select as this class library and I will create this project name called as a task flow dot client admin dot application. The first layer should be a task flow dot client admin dot application. So where this should be created inside the services backslash client admin. Okay. So it should be a capital. Perfect. 9.0. If you see the task flow dot client admin dot application, if you see the structure of these services, right click on this folder, the main solution folder, open folder in file explorer. The structure will be the solution file should be outside the services folder. Inside the services, oh, client spelling mistake is there. The API project and the client admin, we have added the applications. Perfect. So I will remove this one. We'll add later because we have done the spelling mistakes. So I will remove from the locations also, physical locations. Go to this one, open folder in File Explorer because we have taken the mistake. Inside the services, two folder will be created. I will delete this one. Continue. Because we are running. Let me close this. Now we can try to remove. Yes. Now how we can open the once we click the task folder solutions, it should be render the all project whatever we have created inside the solutions without any adding the DLL, without adding the references. If you see, the structure will be remain same. Now we need to add the client admin. Inside the client admin, we need to add a new project that is called as a API project. We have less times. We need to cover at least inside the 14 minutes. And the second video, we will make as a 40 minutes. Let me, let me perfect the password. Now I need to select as a API project. We need to follow the same structure. Task flow dot client admin dot API. Where we need to create this. This time we need to create the spelling. Perfect. The folder should be inside the task flow. We require the services, then backslash client admin should be created this project inside this particular flows. Unselect because this is a main project. Great. Now, perfect things. Inside the client admin, we are making the two projects that is handled by the client admin services. One is the API and another one is the application where we are putting into our real business logic. If you can see here, our main project should be now correct. Inside the services should be one folder that is client admin. Inside the client admin, we have seen the two project that is called as the API and the applications. Perfect. Now we are good. Save. Not closing. Yeah. Oh. Let me re-click again. Task flow. Wait. Da, 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 da. Okay. So time service, we need to add one more layer that is called as a domain where we are capturing the all entities informations. The domain layer should be taking the responsibility for the entities, whatever we have defining into a database. Let me add here the for the structure the task flow dot client admin dot domain. So this is my project name and this project we need to create inside the services backslash client admin backslash domain. Okay, perfect. So it should be created here. Mark as create. And this domain layer is responsibility for the entities. And the last layer we need to create here as a infra. This infra layer is taking care for the particular service and whatever we have created infrastructure outside the services, it will taking care for the all services infra. Okay. So here I will mark as a class library. Perfect. Select. You can follow the same pattern here. Task flow dot client admin dot infrastructure. Perfect. So again, you can follow the folder structure services backslash client admin backslash. Perfect. Okay. So this is the one folder structure, one service. We are managing the four project, API, application, domain, infra. Infra will be taking the responsibility to communicate the database, domain, entity, the application, business logic, interface, DTO, and the services. And the API will be communicate to the gateway, gateway communicate to the client. So this is the high level flow. Same flow we need to make for the end users. We can focus on the client admin. So inside the infrastructure, so we are trying to say the DB communication happen should be via the entity framework. And whenever you are using the entity framework, we need to install the some packages which is required to communicate the your entity framework. The first package we require the entity framework. You can install the Microsoft dot entity framework core, which is you can install the latest update. Oh, sorry, guys. I have installed the mass transits. I will cancel. Should be a entity framework core. This is the package we need to install. And this package we need to install only the infra. Why we not require the domain application API? Because this layer is not communicating to the database. That is the reason we require to the entity framework related package in a service infrastructure layer because this whenever we are running this client admin service it should be a run through the infrastructure. Okay, if you go to the dependencies, the package, the first package we have installed here as a entity framework. The second package we required here the same package entity framework dot SQL server. I will install 9.0.7 is the latest version. Yeah, perfect. Accept it. I will install the design as well. It's not. It's not required, but we can keep. Always you can install the 4 packages whenever you are using the entity framework. First package, the basic entity framework core. The second, entity framework core dot design. Third, entity framework core dot SQL server. And the last one is the entity framework core dot tools. Okay. So this is the first steps. After that, we required to create one custom class. That custom class we need to inherit it by the DB contacts class. Okay. Before that, we will create one task flow. Okay, as a domain, we will create one domain activities. Inside the domains, we will create one simple class where we are managing the product informations. You can create, add, or you can create the task service. Okay, I will create the basic the task category. Task category. Perfect. Okay. Inside this class, we will make as a business entity called as a category name. Okay. Public string category name get set. Public string category description get and the set should be capital description papa, papa, get and the set. Okay. The third parameter I will create public string and display name. Okay. Some customer, this is again SaaS based application task flow. Okay. Like if some customer is wants to change the name of the category. Okay. So they will use as a the category name should be our business entity, which is provided by the product owner. But some customer wants to use the custom name of that the task category, then you can use the this task category. Okay. Again, we have required some basic uh, base audit entity here. Normally should be created the folder, the common entity here. Inside the common, I will mark as a create as a one class called as a base audit entities. Base audit entity. Perfect. Which are the base audit entity? There are the audit entities should be the 4 class public, sorry, public integer created by get set public integer updated by then public date time created date, and the last one is the updated date. Okay, perfect. So here base audit entity I will put the 2 attribute. It should be created another class, the base entity, that is called as is active. So I will create another class called as a base entity. Okay, we will mark. Okay, once we have started the API gateway, that time we will create. Now you can consider as a public integer ID and the public boolean is active because we are not hard deleting any data from our applications. So that's why once whenever we are trying to inactive the data, we will mark as a is active. And this class base you can clear the code, unnecessary namespace not required, control S. And this class you can copy and you can inside this particular model. We will improve the folder structures later, but now you can consider I will remove the unnecessary namespace. Perfect. The task category. Domain, we need to create the one task category table in a database, and that table name should be a task category. Okay. The domain responsibility is completed, and now we need to create the infrastructures. Here inside the infrastructures, we need to create the one uh, file that is called as the class file client admin contacts or mark as a app db contacts. Client admin service contacts. Not service. Okay, fine. So if in like in future, like we will need to create another database for the end user service or the super admin service. So we will create the contacts wise, like service wise contact file also. That is also fine. And order the flow is like every service should be a single contact file. Now you can consider here. This is my the class name uh, client admin contacts, which is we need to communicate the database related activities via this particular object. Inside a class DB contacts object, we need to inherit first. We need to mark as a public because should be accessed by the other class also, and there is one class called as a DB contacts. So this is the main class we need to inherit it for the client admin. Okay. We need to create the one constructor here, public. We are creating the constructor, the same of the class name. Okay, inside the contacts, we have the one option called as a DB contacts option. Okay, here the client admin and the base options. Inside this one, we need to write the whatever you want. Okay, then this is done. Now we need to create the DB set, which is the container of the your storage class. So how we are creating the DB set? You can just mark as a public DB set, and here the first table name called as a the table name called as a task category. Task category where we have created this table inside the domain. We need to add a reference of this domain layer into a particular project. You can mark as a virtual also, no issues. Public virtual task categories. And get the set. Will be a capital, or you can put as the same name, just appending with the yes. Sorry. Perfect. So after that, so your contacts is ready. If you want to like wants to create the design file also, so you can use the design file like on model creation. So inside the on model creation, you can create one method what is a you can mark as a protected because should not inherited. All right, on model creations, or you can mark as on model creating the model builder. Okay, inside the base models, the parameter called as model builders, and inside this one we have the object called as a model builder dot entity. Sorry. Okay, so this is the entity we have created called as a this one. So here we can create some lambda expression by entity. Okay, the entity name should be a mapping. If you want to like map anything of your this particular entity, you can do via this way, like the renaming of the your model, the columns. If you want to like exist like the table names like entity dot, there is one function called as a to table. You can mention the actual table names of the database here, the task category. Okay, if you change the here the category because we are appending the yes, but here we have the option to mark as the actual table name. Here like we want to like the key. If you want to display this is my the key, then you can use the hash key function. Hash key like e dot e dot id. Perfect. Okay, so we have given the this is the id column which is we have required as a primary key. We can tell us our CSC compiler, the language compiler. You can consider this ID as a my primary key. Okay. Third, if you want to like the in actual table, if we not given as ID column, so here we can set as a property. There is a one function called as a property. Inside the property, we can mention the name of the properties. Dot, there is one function called as hash column, something like this, and we can say our compiler, my actual the primary key ID should be like this task category ID. But in we have the model, we are mentioning into the as the ID. So it's a ready your contacts communicate to the database object. So this is the context. How we are creating custom class inherited by the DB context. We have set return the constructor object. We are defining the DB set, and we need to define the on model creation. We have ready as an infrastructure layer also. Okay, now the application layer, I will remove this class one and I will create the two folder. One folder should be like for the interfaces, interfaces. And another folder I will create for the service. Which folder? Service, where we are putting as a business logic. You can create the DTOs folder also here. Okay, we can consider DTO part later, but you can create DTO here. You can create another folder for the validations where we can keep the all business validations. We will try to use the Fluent validations. Okay, perfect. So now we need to create one service called as a one. We need to add one interface. The interface name should be like we are managing the task category. I task category. Perfect. I task category. So here inside the I task category, we will create two functions as of now. The first functions we can create here public list of task category. Perfect. Get categories. And the second public integer Great. And you can pass as a task category. You need to add a reference, the domain. Will now we are using here the directly model, but in when we are doing the second session of these applications, we'll use the actual DTO object here. Okay, perfect. So this is the two methods we have created. You can remove the unnecessary namespace, which is not required. So clean code, control KD. That the interface is ready. We need to write the services service class. Inside the service class, we need to name as a task category service. Category service. Perfect. So which logic we need to put here? The business logic, which is directly communicate to the our infra layer. So I will inherit by this task category, I task category. One thing we have missed here, I will change the name of this rename. So should be like I category service. Perfect. Enter. Yes. Control C. Inherited by this normal class. So first things I will create the one variable private read only I task category service. Perfect. So here I will create one constructor. The class name called as a task category service. Here, perfect. So I have created the constructor, inject the service. Now I need to create the one class called as a public list of task category. The function name should be a get categories. So here you can define a local variable task categories is equal to the object name called as a task service dot. So sorry guys, this object should be created inside the controller. We need to create the object of your client admin DB contacts. Should be like this client DB. What is the name of this way? Client admin contacts. Second video, we can try to create client admin contacts. Second video, we will create this instead of client admin contacts. We'll try to use as a unit of work. Okay, the unit of work. So here you can consider for now as a directly object, but we cannot use the directly object client admin contacts. Perfect. Now here we need to use the context. Okay. Once we have put the context, the our task categories dot to list items to list, and you can return here task categories. Perfect. So this is the first API. We have written here a list of task categories. Let me add the reference as a domain here. Perfect. The first function we have done. So same way, we required another function for the create. So instead of this list, we need to return as a true and a false. So I will mark as a return type as a integer and the function name called as a create. Perfect. And here I will add. Which add? I need to add object. Okay. Inside the object, we need to add our request model task category a request. Perfect. Remove dot to list. Okay. And then you can use the client admin context dot save changes. Okay. So we have done the ready our business logic, the validations we can see later. So here we are trying to read get all categories which is we have created via the discrete method, and we are putting into this one. Now that this is done for the application layer. Now we have coming to the controller level. So we need to create one controller that is called as a add new items. So you can create one item that is called as a API controller. Here I will mark as a controller name called as a task category. Perfect. So inside task category, we need to create one injection here, private, read only. Now we can create here the I task category service. Perfect. We need to add a reference here. Perfect. Put as underscore. Perfect. Then we need to create the constructor here. Constructor name should be like this one. Public space. Perfect. Now we need to create one API that is the HTTP gate. HTTP gate list. Public IX and result. Now for the time being, you can use the IX and result, but second video we will create the filter IX and result filter, that is the response. Here you can mark as a list. The function name called as a list. Here, the task category return. Okay, then we underscore the task category dot get categories method. Perfect. So here we can change the instead of list, I will put as a one. This is the first API we have done. The second API also similar, but for the post. HTTP post is not required to the name. I will remove this one. Here I will mark as a create. You can mark as a request here, and this request method you can pass to the create method. Perfect. Okay. So this is your API called as a post API. So return filter, result filter we can implement into a second video. Okay. So now the your API project is also ready. The context project is also ready. The domain project is also ready. Now we can just resolve the dependencies and the DB connections. Where we have resolved the dependencies, we will try to resolve the dependencies into a program.cs files. Okay. So we need to go to the program.cs file, which is available into the API project. And here you can mention you can, if you want to like define the connection string, here you can define the builder, the object of your builder dot services dot, there is one function called as add db contacts. The function name called be add db contacts, and inside db contacts you can refer what is your the contact name, client admin contacts. The contact name should be like this because we have created the contacts, and inside the contacts we need to define the options. Okay, which options we need to communicate here? Option dot use SQL Server method. There is one method called as a use SQL Server where we are putting the actual connection string like server. I will put as a locally dot, then the database. I have a database already created that is called as a batch 04. Not required a double quote again. Perfect. Remove it. Then server is equal to dot. Then the semicolon, the perfect. Okay. Then inside the database, whenever we are communicate to the from the local, we require the trust server certificate too. So here trust server certificate is equal to true. And the last one is the integrated security is equal to true. Then close the double quote. Okay, so this is the connection string we have defined into a program.cs file. Okay, in the second video we can convert this connection string into the config files. Now you can give the another option called as here the dependency resolution because we are using the interface builder dot services dot add scope. For now, I will use the add scope. We'll see task category, comma, task category. Perfect. Okay, so we have defined the connection string. We have defined the resolution of the service dependency. Now, last step is we need to create the tables. Just go to the database. So inside the batch 04, we require to create one table. For that, which table we need to create the task category? Which options? The category name, category description, category and the display name. Where we have displayed all details inside the domain where we have business entities, the display name, category descriptions. I will go to the database. There is one database called as a batch 04. Inside there, I will create one table called as a new table. Here, I will mark as a task category ID as a big integer and set as a primary key. I will auto increment properties. Identity specification is identity yes. Then the second name called as a category name. Then varchar 250. It should be a not nullable category code. Then varchar 10 should be a not null and a category description should be n var instead of 50 to 50 nullable. Then is active bit allow nulls. Okay. Then created by this is also not null, also not null. And the last one is the updated on. Okay. So this is the entity we have making where we are capturing the task related information, task category ID, category name, category code, category description, is active, created on, created by, updated on. Okay. And you can save this table called as a task category. Save. Okay. Click on the new query window for the batch 04 database and try to access select star from task category F5. Sorry, execute. So there is no interest. Now we can, this is the multiple services. Now we are focusing into a client admin. But next sessions, we will try to understand the API gateways and the end users. Now I will run this as a startup project. Which project I have startup? The client admin APIs. Okay, now I will create the some postman here to post the data for the audit entity. Now you can pass via the postman, but should be a comments from the database service layers. Okay, if I'm going to service task category service here, you can add like request dot created. Let me see something wrong. Page audit entity. No, created it. Okay, I have changed. Let me see here. Task category service. Pass the hard request dot created on take time dot now request dot updated by is equal to one request dot and request is active. Equal to true. Request dot is active. Okay, so this is the we have done. Now we need to create one postman here. Up. Again. My postman is not working. Create account via web browsers. So you can create one connection, new. Here we need to create as a post method. Okay, now you can see compile the applications, the client admin service, which has we have run the vendor solutions. If everything is fine, it will compile successfully without any errors. When successful, now we have set as a startup the API project. So I will run the applications. The actual URL of the API. This is your the API URL. Control C. I will copy. I will paste it here. Then backslash API backslash task category. The controller name. What is the controller name? The task category. and we need to post the data. Which data we need to post? A raw registration object. First object, category name, colon, cat1, category 1, comma, category 4, CAT00. And the last one is the category description. Yes, category. Ignore. Okay. This is your payload. I have the debugger point. Click on the send button. So, okay, the JSON format is not good. So, how we can correct the JSON format? The curly brace and open and close the curly brace. Pum 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 pum. Perfect. Now you can send. The display print name is required, which is we have not passed. Okay, display name. It's a mandatory. Category 1. Now you can send here. The controller is coming here inside the request payload. We are the data, which is we have seen category, cat1, category description. I will go with the function F10, function F11. Okay, all data will be coming here F10, 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 and we are calling the add method and the response. The keyword not supported by the integrated separated. That means the connection string which is we have mentioned into a program.cs file is not good. So spelling mistake or the it will be not supported. Which keyword is not supported? They have mentioned the integrated. integrated SU, the spelling mistake of the security SU CURITY. Okay, now we can try again because this connection string is very sensitive information of your application. Okay, now you can open as a decrypted format, but in a real application, whenever we are going to the production, it should be a encrypted format. Same thing, guys. We need to hit again. It's coming. Function F10, F11, F10. An error occurred too while saving the entity changes. The display name. I think so. We have not created the display name. Let me check if we have created the display name inside the task category, the columns. Category CATGORY or display name we have not created. Okay, we are not modifying the table now. Just we can go to the domain entity task category and you can remove from here. Instead of like display name, we have put as a this category code. Category code. Perfect. CMC capital. Oh, control S. So inside the, I will run the application again. Now from the postman, I will remove the category display name. Letter add. I can see here function F10, F11, tick, 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 tick. Uh, yeah, big casting because we have created as a big int in the database. So whenever we are defining your model here, the base entities, we need to define the long because in a database we mark as a big integer. Let's see what happens. So it's returning the one value. Okay. Now let's see. I will create one more base where we can see the list of data which is we have added into HTTP request, and here I will mark as a list. Okay. If you see the values we are added here, the cat1 category name, the description, you can see into a database also. Just you can hit the table, the category we have inserted into here two times. Perfect. So this is the application, guys, where we can use as a application. So these are the steps. Okay, now this first sessions we are trying to create a simple service, the client admin. The next sessions we will create the another service end user the similar way and the API gateway project. So client admin should be communicate to the API gateway. API gateway has deciding a power where we can to redirect to this particular request either like client admin or the end user as per the client admin requested. Okay, now you can use the same structure here, task projects. Okay, if you want to create your test project here, we are creating add a new project here. The you can add the X unit test project here. The same nature you can follow directly the project name called as a task flow dot client admin dot test. Okay. So similar way, this project should be goes to the your inside the test flow should be a test folder. In that test folder, you can create the taskflow.clientadmin.test. Okay. So here you can remove this one and you need to create the two level of test folder here. One is for the API test cases. So I will mark as a API folder here. Okay, and another one folder that is called as a services, where we are creating a services test cases. Okay, how we are adding the test cases? Just adding the one class called as a task category controller test. Task category controller test. Perfect. Add it. The same here, the task category service test, where we are trying to cover the course. Task category service test. Perfect. So here you can create the mocking database, which is either like you can use the theory or you can use the fact as per your need. Now you can use if you want like add the end user service also, you can create the some folder structure, the new project. Okay. like this one. The main project will be ASP.NET Core. The solution name should be mm, like this way, task flow dot. Now here we can mark as a end user dot API. Okay, where we are creating this folder inside the task folder, inside the services, then we have the end user, U capital, perfect. End user task flow is our solution name, end user is our service, and the API is your main project. So here we can follow the same structure. That you can add same thing, unsecure this HTTPS, create. Okay, so inside the individual also we have created the project structure. So same things you can create for the application, business, infra, all project as a class library. You can create here. Next button. I know the video is very lengthy, but we will try to cover the second part of this videos. The project name called as a task flow dot the service name called as a end users. Then yes, small pop-up bum. Then the project name called as a applications. Okay. So where we are capturing inside the task flow, services, backslash, end user, backslash. Perfect. Add it. You can add it the application, same thing. You can add for the domains and the infrastructures. You can add here new project, the class library. Next. Then the project name called as a task flow dot service name called as a end user and the project name called as a domain. Okay. Where you are storing this project inside the task flow, there is one folder called as a services, then end user, and then you have the domain project. Next. Great. And the last project we require the infrastructure, which is the service infrastructure, not a global infrastructure. Okay. So here also you need to create the class library, task flow dot end user dot infrastructure. This project was we need to create inside the task flow services. Which service? End user. Perfect. Yes, more. Next. Great. If you see, this is the second service we have written. The first service we have written the test project for we have created the client admin. Same way you can create the test case project for the new project, X unit, test project. Then you can select as a task flow dot end user dot test. Okay, and this project we need to create inside the task folder. There is folder called as a test. Then we have the end users. Okay, great. The same things here. You need to the same patterns, API test cases and the service test cases. You can remove this one. Go to the folder. Create a folder that is called as a API and create another folder called as a services. Perfect. The same thing like whatever we have done for the client admin, you can make a classes, use the theory or the fact. Okay. So inside this infrastructure, this we are making the some common methods like the task flow dot infrastructure dot helpers, and this helper method will be a help to the both services. Okay, client admin and the end users. How we are adding the project should be a class library always as a new project, and this is a class library, and we are creating this project task flow dot infrastructure dot helper. This is helper is your project. So all classes we are keeping into this particular process which is as a help method. So we are making as a task the infra. Okay, and this is the task flow के अंदर हमारा infrastructure रहेगा and the project name called as a helpers. Perfect. So this is the project we have created. You can add multiple project for the log mechanism, global exception management, everything. Okay, so this is the microservice architecture of you can understand. Now we have created the project. We have test via Postmans. We have post correct the data via Postman. So everything is good. I will give the some brief introduction again. The API gateway is the main project of this particular task flow programs. So whenever we are creating a two client application, one client application that is called as a client admin where we are managing the all master data which is required to by the task flow. Okay. And the end user service portal we need to create where the actual end user has interact to the pages to creating a task, the categories, the work defined workflows, everything will be created, managed by the task the application code as a end users. Okay. Whenever we are trying to access the client admin application from the end users, then in that case, this client admin portal can communicate to the API gateway, and the API gateway can decide which service we need to call. Okay, accordingly, the API gateway taking the responsibility to call the client admin. So that configuration we can make the API gateway configuration we can make into a second videos how we can deciding the that particular API we need to call. If I'm creating a task category, how the API gateway should knows I need to call the task category create APIs. So again, we have the infrastructure folder where we are managing the common infra activities which is required to our all services. So now we have created only two services, but in future, like we will create another service, super admin, the other service, config portals. So in future we can add the and this project has taken the common activities which is required to the all services. We have the another folder called as a services, and inside the services, we are making two services. One is the client admin and the one is the end user. Inside the client admin, again, we are adding the four new project that is the API, which is communicate to the API gateway. Okay, and the endpoint configurations. Another API, another project called as application, which is managed by the maintained by the business logic domain, which is maintained by the all entities, whatever we have created. Into a database and the infrastructure. This is a local infrastructure, which is we need to use the DB communication activity for the client admin. Okay. Hope you can understand. The video is very lengthy, but I can understand. Uh, we will create another video part two where we can explain you the test case project, the infrastructure project, common infra project, and the API gateway project. Okay. So thank you guys. Bye bye.